the the pie chart, 80% of the advantage goes to the top 1%. Who pays? The middle class. The fact that they're saying there's a middle class tax cuts is not true. It's wrong. And when they come forth with their tax bill, we will see more clearly. But what the Republicans did today was to give a open path to this assault. An assault. It's a rip-off, a shakedown, a looting of the middle class. And that has a difference in our country. Arnold Toynbee wrote about histories of civilizations. You know that. In one of his presentations, he talked about societies and governments that were there for with creative leadership, where people could thrive and succeed, versus exploitive situations where they were there for the rich and the powerful. That's not a good thing for a country. And that's the path that these Republicans are taking us down. So very calmly, we say to them, we want to do tax reform. We want to do it in a way that is fair, that has fairness, that has simplification, that has growth, that reduces the deficit, creates good-paying jobs, and keeps America number one. Instead, we have a budget that they put forth that does not do that, but they misrepresent that it is good for the middle class, which it is not. So hopefully, when this tax bill comes up, the public will be aware of what to look for in it, know how they pay the price for this big transfer of wealth, where the wealth is sucked up from the middle class to high income, the 1%, as well as the wealthy corporations in our country. It's stunning. It's really startling. It's a con. It's a massive con, and we're going to make sure that if they engage in this, the American people know how it affects them. This isn't about politics. This is about the American people and how policy here affects them. We want instead, let's go to the table to create growth, to create good-paying jobs, to reduce the deficit, to keep America number one, and to reduce taxes on the middle class. That's probably about all I'll have to say, unless you have some questions. Our Californians, what they've done to California, I'm so proud of our governor. He wrote individually to each of the members to say how bad this would be. And you know what? I loved the fact that in his letter he said, not only do you take away the deduction from individual filers, but you keep it for corporations in this bill. You're an individual filer. You have a home. If any of you have homes that you take a deduction, state and local taxes, you lose that. If you're a corporation, you keep it. Whose side are they on? But again, it's a moment of definition. It's a moment of definition, and we will not allow them to misrepresent the facts on this tax bill to the American people. Heartbreaking, because we could have come together to do something in a bipartisan way that would be sustainable. You can't do tax reform without bipartisanship and sustainability if you're going to give certainty to the business community so they can act upon, and individuals so they can act upon their personal as well as professional and business decisions. That, I'm pleased to take any questions. Yes, sir.
Thank you, given what you've said, what you've seen of the framework up to this point, if Republicans stay on the current track they're on, right, their tax overhaul, is your primary goal, the goal of your caucus, to see its failure at this point?
Well, yes, because we're here for the American people. We don't want that impact to be on the American people. And the problem with their tax bill is not just the harm it does directly in terms of, say, the state and local tax deduction being removed. That's just one example. But also, because they take us so deeply into debt, the opportunity cost for our budget to invest in education, it will necessitate $1 trillion being cut out of Medicaid, and that's part of their plan. $500 billion coming out of Medicare. It will have a cost to education and the rest. And that's about the health and well-being of our families and the future of our country in terms of education being essential. Education, by the way, being any money spent on education, nothing brings more money to the Treasury than investing in education, early childhood, K through 12, higher education, post-grad, lifetime learning. That's a fact. So if they undermine that opportunity for investment, they're increasing the deficit, not saving any money. So we would hope that, I think that a part of what these members walk the plank for is something they're going to have to answer for back home. And hopefully, I think that the ability to have leverage would have been to defeat this and then go to their speaker and say, we want something different. In fact, they have they've given leverage to the exploiters. Anybody? No? Yes, sir?
Me?
Yep.
Oh, question on immigration and sort of your negotiating stance between now and December. The speaker was out here a little while ago denying reports that he had told some of his colleagues that the spending bill will include some solution to DACA for certain, but said, conversations are continuing. What is your updated sense of where that issue stands and what your potential leverage points are going into that bill?
Well, I didn't realize the speaker backed off that statement because people were taking some comfort in the fact that something would happen before the end of the year. Let me just say about our dreamers. They are really a blessing to our country. I've said to them, last 2 days I've had 6 meetings relating to dreamers, and I said to them, do me a favor, thank your parents for bringing you here because you're such an inspiration to our country. They are so great, and the American people recognize that. Over 80% want them to stay, high numbers want them to stay on a path to citizenship. I think President Trump is inclined to be supportive. He said he is. I take him at his word. And that because the American people support the dreamers, not because we were so persuasive, but because the American people support the dreamers. So I'm optimistic that we'll celebrate.
Hey guys, it's Molly in the newsroom here at Fox 5 Live. Thanks for joining our stream today. I'm going to bring you out of that Nancy Pelosi weekly address because you're probably here for definitely the most interesting story of the day, which is the release of the brand new JFK assassination files. We're going to have Tom Fitzgerald in this chair to talk more about that coming up soon because it's a really cool story and we don't really know when they're going to be released later this morning, maybe into the afternoon, that will possibly answer a lot of unanswered questions from that time period about the U.S. involvement with everything, really the possible assassination of Fidel Castro at the time, their relationship, of course, with the CIA, and other questions about regarding conspiracies surrounding that assassination. So a lot of cool stuff to be revealed there. I'm going to bring you over now, though, to a live feed that I have on the House floor, which looks a little more interesting than what we were just on. And so let's go over to the House floor for now, and then we'll come back in and make sure Tom can join us, and we'll chat more about that topic.
Trump even criticized the brave people of Puerto Rico, claiming they are throwing our budget out of whack. And I just also note that Trump was kind enough to dedicate a golf trophy cup to Puerto Rico.
Speaker Ryan's response. President Trump has tremendous compassion. You can see the compassion. He's flying to these emergencies as soon as he can. It shows me that the people who are suffering from these tragedies are in his mind front and center. I'm pretty sure the millions in Puerto Rico who still lack electricity and running water do not feel that way. They don't feel that way about Trump, and they don't feel that he has any compassion for them. And they definitely aren't front and center for this president or his incompetent administration.
Finally, beginning October 17th, President Trump repeatedly attacked one of our colleagues, Congresswoman Wilson of Florida, and he essentially said that a Gold Star widow was lying.
So what was Speaker Ryan's response? Actually, we're still waiting to hear from him. He hasn't commented or issued a statement. When Trump repeatedly denigrates the personal integrity of a member of this body, Speaker Ryan says nothing. When Trump demeans a grieving widow whose husband has made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, Speaker Ryan stays silent. Frankly, it's embarrassing. Congressman Liu, what do you think these responses from Speaker Ryan say about the House Republican leadership and the state of the Republican Party?
Thank you, Representative Gallego. There's really only two choices here. Either all of us in Congress can follow the leadership of Republican Senators John McCain, Bob Corker, and Jeff Flake and tell the truth, or we can be complicit. Jeff Flake is unwilling to be complicit. We are unwilling to be complicit. And keep in mind, when Senator Bob Corker, who is not a flamethrower, he's the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and he comes out and says that he is concerned the President of the United States could lead us to World War III, Americans need to listen. And so we call on Speaker Ryan to not be complicit and enable the reckless and dangerous behavior of our president, and that he have the courage to stand up and tell the truth and to really make sure that our president does not take our country off the rails.
Our founding fathers knew that there was danger in putting so much power in one person. They knew that given too much power to one person, an irresponsible and immature leader could use that to both affect democracy and either that or enrich themselves. There's a reason why we have this, what we call the checks and balances. But one of those checks needs to be the U.S. House of Representatives. Under that, the person who's in charge of the U.S. House of Representatives is Speaker Ryan. He is not providing that check. He is only helping this administration carry on law with their abuse and with the destruction of what we understand the norms of this democracy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the President. Members are also reminded to properly yield and reclaim time under recognition. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 3rd, 2017, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gomert, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's interesting, when I'm watching the news or look at a newspaper, I can see what kind of pictures are there in the news story, and having been at press conferences where print media that are extremely slanted will come up with the photographer from those from such a media source will come up and get right in front and then start taking pictures and have their camera on nonstop, just click, 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 second after second. So you know they've got 100, 200 pictures. It's easy to know what they're doing. They're taking as many pictures as fast as they can, and you know that they're going to go through and they're going to take the picture in which your mouth is in the most contorted position, or where it looks like you're saying a word that would be inappropriate for an elected official to say. And you know that's the picture they're going to put up, trying to make you look as stupid as possible before you ever read the article. And for some of us, it's not difficult to make us look stupid. We can't help our looks. But you just know before you ever read the article, when you look at the picture, whether it's going to be a fair and objective article or whether it's going to be totally skewed and totally subjective. And I notice that too sometimes when friends across the aisle.
Hey guys, back in the newsroom here. It's Molly at Fox 5 Live. Thanks for joining us on the stream today, guys. We got 5 days till Halloween, and I'm going to be sort of switching up our feeds today so that we can talk about a lot of different topics. I can't think straight because I'm kind of chocolated out because we celebrated National Chocolate Day a couple days early. It's actually on Saturday, and this morning on the morning show we had this feast from La Conche in Virginia, which is this dessertery chocolatier place, and I'm a little bit wired on sugar, but I want to tell you, Iran and Zach, oh my gosh.
Hi. Did you mention Halloween and chocolate?
I was just talking about it.
I have a lot.
Risa here, our social media editor. Come join me.
Yes.
What is up?
So, you mentioned
now we're
Halloween,
back in the chocolate. I wanted to say
chocolate, and I brought you all the goods.
Oh my goodness.
We have Hershey's, we have Frangos. I don't know what this is, but it looks delicious.
Whatever it is, I want it, guys. Thanks, Risa. Okay, we'll talk a little social media right now, but I just wanted to say hi to a couple viewers. Iran and Zach, thanks for joining us. And a lot of you guys are asking about the JFK assassination files, which we'll be talking more about and breaking down as we have been told they will be released this morning, or today rather, at the special annex of the National Archives in College Park, Maryland. So cool story, and I put it on the headline there, so if you're joining us for that, we'll get some more details and some more information from Tom in just a second. He's doing a little more research. But first, while I have Risa, you get the mic.
Got the mic.
Okay, let's talk a little social media. We're doing chocolate today, like I said, on the morning show. We just had so much chocolate, but hey, I'll take some more. I'm gonna get some.
But you know what? That's okay because we're chocolate lovers. And to be honest, we celebrate it every day. I don't think you need a special day to celebrate this special yumminess, right?
Check it, guys. You know you want it.
Right? Mm-hmm. And we have options here. If you don't like dark, that's okay. We have milk chocolate. Don't like that? White chocolate. You gotta have options, guys. Options.
White is the one where I draw the line.
Oh, God.
I can't quite do the white. But
I dropped our chocolate. I'm so sorry.
Okay. 2 days away is chocolate day.
2 days away is chocolate
Halloween
day.
is 5 days away.
And I can't believe it. Oh my God.
If any of you guys are doing something special, let us know. If you tune into our show, we're doing an awesome special good day from 10 to 11 a.m. Not here on the digital, but on our broadcast. So we'll have costumes. There'll be a live studio audience. It's going to be really cool.
It's going to be really cool because the theme is amazing. Let's just say it's very super.
And relevant to today, as all Halloween costumes need to be.
For sure.
We're going to see so many puns and jokes this year.
And Good Day DC always does it up for Halloween. So if you guys are viewers of the show, then you will have remembered last year's, which was a play up on the Megyn Kelly show. And
oh, it was?
what was her
Ellen?
anchor?
No. I didn't see this last year, so I didn't know.
Nonetheless, guys, it was amazing. We had our anchors dress up as different movie celebrities, so Hollywood celebrities. I think Steve Genevieve was Brad Pitt. Erin Como embodied Angelina Jolie.
That's awesome.
So the way they did it up was, okay, they're going through this divorce, but they're still in love with each other. It was just amazing. And we had a live audience.
I love the acting.
You guys will definitely enjoy Halloween's Good Day
DC special. Yeah. So Halloween's next Tuesday. If you are just joining us on the stream, welcome. You're watching our YouTube digital stream of live news, breaking news, sources. Pulled out of the house floor for now because it's getting a little stagnant, so we want to kind of keep it fresh and exciting. Like I mentioned, in our headline right here, you're probably reading that we're going to be talking about the new JFK assassination files, and we'll have that in a little bit once we get a little more information on that. I know our reporter, Tom Fitzgerald, is on that story, and so we'll have him chatting a little more about it. You can see Bob Barner behind me. He was on that story this morning. They were kind of waiting to see if these would be released this morning, and then he'd be able to jump on. Here's what the experts say. This is what, it's some snippets from it. Unfortunately, it didn't happen in the morning sort of time. So now we're kind of pushing the story to more of the midday reporter research and stories. Sure. And then, Risa, what's popping on social today? You're kind of manning our Instagram account, our Twitter.
Our Instagram, our Twitter. So right now, me and Molly are actually both working on a cool project. So we went to an awesome art exhibition yesterday, and we're preparing an awesome video for social media. So watch out for it on Instagram. It's basically about interactive, immersive art at Art Tech House.
And
we got awesome footage yesterday.
Yeah, our tech house is a really unique digital art installation / you could say museum, but more of sort of an experience, and it's way downtown. It's a new kind of fad, I guess you could say, an interesting element to the DC art and design and display world. So we've been able to go for the past couple of iterations of the displays, and this one was a fall-themed one, which is actually going on its last few weeks. So if you're in the DMV area, you can still check it out. So we'll have a little behind-the-scenes footage and a little video to prepare for you guys. So don't forget to follow us on our Insta and everything, and we'll post those creative little content bits there. I love doing the videos. Yeah, they're really fun.
They're so fun. So hopefully you guys like, and it gives you an inside look into this, I guess, play up on technology and the art world. 2017, guys. I mean, totally capitalized.
Totally. And interestingly, their third display, which they've told us about, there's going to be a sneak peek sort of in early November, is more of an immersive experience rather than an actual interactive where you create and you touch and you create the art. So we'll check that one out too.
And the name for that one, just to kind of tease it out, Kingdoms of Color.
Oh, that's right. I forgot their official title. Right?
So we think you guys will like it. So this video that we have planned for you all, just keep an eye out. We'll probably post it around 4-ish today. So yeah.
Oh, good.
Instagram, Snapchat. Beep it, guys.
Perfect. Okay, so again, guys, you're probably jumping in and out of this stream. I know one of you was asking Zach when these files were going to be released. The answer is we don't quite know. We were told today, this morning, maybe into the afternoon, but we're going to be keeping an eye on that. We've been told they're going to be released today, Thursday. So yeah, more on that and more detail to what some experts and university professors who are experts on this field have said about what these files might reveal. That's coming up shortly. We have a couple more sources coming in, so we'll probably jump around unless, so there's anything else to sort of mention.
As of right now, I don't think I've got much for you guys. I think this video has me a little bit wrapped up.
I know.
Okay, how can we create it? Because it gives us a chance to be artists ourselves. Just creating the videos, picking the right music. That is super key. Me and Molly have been between okay, which song would go with the flow of the content that we captured. So yeah,
good.
I think touch bases tomorrow, guys.
Yeah, we'll probably show it. We'll play it out if we can tomorrow. Sure. And again, guys, if you are new to the stream, welcome. You can see behind me the sign for our channel. This is our YouTube channel that you can subscribe to by pressing the button that says subscribe, obviously. And thanks for kind of hanging out with us. If you have any thoughts or chat comments, I know a few of you are chatting, let me know. If you have any questions we can answer, we'll answer them from the newsroom here. We're just kind of trying to bring you what we got coming in on this Thursday, yes, October 26th. I was like, what day is it? Quick shout out to my really good friend, Chris. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Chris, if you're watching. Yeah, we'll go from there. We'll just see what else is popping.
All right, guys.
All right, let's get back to work. We're going to go over to Attorney General Jeff Sessions event at the Heritage Foundation here in DC, the think tank. We just got this coming in down the source line, so we'll route you over there. Thanks for watching, guys. Let us know what you think and where you're watching from. Yeah, right, so we'll be back with us another day.
For sure. Thanks,
Harold. One of the things you get to do when you're in the Senate and part of the Armed Services Committee, you get to go to places around the globe, and you know that you just can't take a constitution and give it to a country and expect them to be able to operate a rule of law. Nothing like the sophistication and the integrity and the stability of our legal system. It's just something beyond anything that's anywhere in the world, and if people don't understand that, they're missing something exceedingly important. General Meese was my boss, and it was a thrill to be a part of your Department of Justice. Ed Meese is one of the greatest attorney generals ever to serve in this nation. I know those of you who've come to know him know the qualities that make that such a true statement. He was fabulous. He's still loved in the department and throughout the law enforcement community. And General Meese, thank you for your friendship, support for me over the years. I'll certainly not forget that. President Trump spoke here a little more than a week ago. In eloquent terms, he talked about the legal traditions handed down to us that are the legacy of our founders. He spoke of the urgent necessity to, quote, rededicate ourselves to the defense of our God-given rights, close quote. And he has done more than talk. He's nominating truly outstanding judges to our courts who understand these principles. I'm very proud of his leadership, his judicial record, and to be able to serve in his Department of Justice. Many indeed think this election was pretty important. Without what's happening today, the rule of law may well have been lost behind us in a cloud of dust. It's a very significant election, I think, and many believe for the legal system particularly important. On the law, President Trump couldn't have been more correct. We must, above all, vigorously defend the inalienable rights that are part of our heritage, and especially religious liberty and freedom of speech. These are the very first freedoms the founders put in the Bill of Rights, and not by accident. They are first because our freedom to worship and to speak our minds are at the core of what it means to be free. Our founders believed that reason is the best means to truth and justice. Reason requires discourse and frequently argument. The father of our Constitution, James Madison, said in protest of the Alien and Sedition Acts, the speech codes of their day, the speech codes he said that freedom of speech is the only effectual guardian of every other right. In every generation, there have been those who say that certain speech is not deserving of protection. Many of these people are well-intentioned, but as Oliver Wendell Holmes once wrote, quote, "If there is any principle of the Constitution that more imperatively calls for attachment than any other, it is the principle of free thought, not free thought for those who agree with us, but freedom for the thought that we hate," close quote. When it was the Federalist against the Anti-Federalist, Lincoln against Douglas, Martin Luther King against George Wallace, and in so many episodes in our history, speech led Americans to better decisions and a more just society. Under President Trump's leadership, this Department of Justice is doing its part to protect that right. We will enforce the federal law and protect the constitutional right to free expression. For example, we recently filed a statement of interest in 2 campus free speech cases, and we will be filing more in the months to come. Incidentally, one of those cases arose when a college student was prevented from proclaiming his Christian faith. So this is doubly important because the restrictions impact both speech and free exercise of religion. The founders knew that religion is not an accident of history or a passing circumstance. It is an inalienable human right that it pre-exists the Constitution and is an essential component of liberty itself. Thank you. In his farewell address, President George Washington famously called religion the, quote, indispensable support of political prosperity and a great pillar of human happiness. He warned, quote, "Let us with caution indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion." It's a serious question. I would go further and suggest that a core principle of our founding was that there is an objective truth, and that good policy is to be founded on truth. And that is reflected from jury trials, cross-examination, rules of evidence, protections in free speech, protections in Congress, freedom of the press. All of this was designed to make sure that we reach the truth. Those rights that we have, it seems to me, were the protected mechanisms to ascertain truth. We had one Supreme Court justice that still makes the hair stand on my neck that in several speeches quoted favorably the line, something to the effect that there is no objectivity, just a series of perspectives. It's a dangerous thought. I don't think it's consistent with our heritage, our constitutional heritage. It was a faith and a belief in morality and truth that inspired Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to march and to use the power of words to make this country better. He said, quote, "We must not seek to solve the problem of, close quote, of segregation merely for political reasons, but, quote, in the final analysis, we must get rid of segregation because it's sinful," close quote. It undermined the promise, as he described it, that each individual has certain basic rights that are neither derived from nor conferred by the state. They are gifts from the hands of Almighty God. Such concepts are a key part of our legal and cultural heritage. In recent years, the cultural climate has become less hospitable, sometimes even hostile, to people of faith and to expressions of religious belief. Many Americans have felt their freedom to practice their faith has been under attack, and I certainly have heard that in recent years. I believe the 2016 election was significantly impacted by this concern. It motivated many people. President Trump made a promise that was heard and well received. Since he was elected, the president has directed me to issue guidance on how to properly interpret and apply the protections for religious liberty in the First Amendment and other federal laws. I issued that guidance earlier this month. You can be sure the Department of Justice will defend those principles resolutely. The guidance makes clear that religious exercise is not just some policy preference, it's an inalienable right. We do not give up our religious freedom when we are at work, at school, when we interact with the federal government, or when we speak together in the public square. The guidance provides many more details about our rights, but I want to be clear about something.
All right, guys, we want to vary it up and keep you interested, so we're going to take you out of that Heritage Foundation press event and kind of mix it up. But we got T here. He's visiting from upstairs, checking in with you from the newsroom. So just saying hey. Tonight we got Thursday night football, Ravens and
Dolphins.
And Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins. Yep, should be a good AFC matchup.
Mm-hmm.
So Baltimore is struggling a lot. You know, if I was to root for an AFC team, it would definitely be Baltimore Ravens, especially because they're Maryland's team.
Mm-hmm. They've had some really pretty good years recently.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But basically, their best player is Joe Flacco. So I wouldn't expect to see much from them. Especially, they lost last week to the Minnesota Vikings. I don't really know much about Miami Dolphins, but Ajayi, their running back, he's a beast. Landry, their quarterback. I think Jay Cutler got injured.
I think I saw that.
Yeah.
Really, the big talker is this Sunday, Redskins Cowboys.
Redskins and Cowboys, and I'm still on a mission to find tickets. I would like to witness this game.
I still have never been to one of them, but every year it's like a big thing, and like I've lived and known Cowboys fans here, and the opposite, of course, being in Redskins territory, and I've still never gotten to go. So
yeah, but that's definitely the big game, prime time at 4:30.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a great matchup. Last week the Cowboys crushed the San Francisco 49ers, and the Redskins lost a very close one to the Eagles. Usually the NFC East matchups are very close all the time, like Eagles, Redskins, Giants, Cowboys. Like that's my favorite division. I'd say NFC East. It's always great matchups. Even though like the Giants are like 1-6, they've only won one game, I think. I feel like when they play, but when they play like an NFC East team, they're always close, or they'll end up beating them.
Same.
It's you can never really predict within this division, because like Cowboys and Redskins, you would think Cowboys, you know, with their offense, they could easily run through the Skins, especially because the Skins are injured. They don't have Josh Norman Breland playing. Their cornerbacks are down. But I bet you it's still going to be very close. The Skins are going to come close. It's always close.
Yeah.
It's always
really
up in the air.
Season. Yeah. I'm just pumped for the season in general, getting excited to go to some of the games this year for my team, New England Patriots. But guys, I know you have thoughts. If you have comments and thoughts, let us know in the live chat and engage with us, have a little conversation. We're going to be hanging out in the newsroom. And like I said, if you are just kind of coming on our stream, we're going to be talking the JFK assassination files in a little bit. But first, actually, I have some video coming in from Capitol Hill. There is a group of nurses that have come back to the United States after volunteering, or rather to the contiguous United States after volunteering in Puerto Rico. Nancy Pelosi and some others are talking with them and delivering some remarks to call for more federal assistance for Puerto Rico. So we're going to go over there, say goodbye to T.
Goodbye.
We'll see you another time when you come back and visit.
Thanks for having me, Molly.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Stop by anytime. All right, we're going to go over to this event.
Republican S-chip bill scheduled for next week does not include adequate Medicaid funding for Puerto Rico. These steps, fixing Medicaid and the energy grid, will not be easy or inexpensive, but they are part of what is necessary to heal Puerto Rico. With that, let me introduce someone who has been a tireless voice on so many of these issues, our Democratic leader, Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Velasquez, for your great leadership, not just now in terms of the hurricane in Puerto Rico, but on the ongoing. It's an honor to be here with you, to be with our colleague, Jose Serrano, Luis Gutierrez, Congressman Espaillat of New York, two of New York, Chicago, and Congressman Soto has been very much a part of this as well. So our colleagues have spoken out on this subject. In the interest of time, because we want to hear from the nurses, I wish to associate myself with the full context of the presentation of Congresswoman Velasquez. I think it is very, very important. And say thank you to the nurses who have traveled home from the front lines of the crisis to tell their story. I just want to, you pointed out the picture, I want to point out this, and I'm sure the nurses will too, all the places where the nurses brought health care, food, water all over the island. Thank you for saving lives, delivering hope, and fighting for more relief. But really, thank you also for the report that you gave on what is happening there. It is quite an indictment. 1 month after the hurricane struck, and my colleague, Congresswoman Velasquez referenced some of this, millions of our fellow Americans are still facing a catastrophe of historic proportions. And by the way, there are more American citizens in Puerto Rico than maybe 20 of our states. That's right. Than more than 20 of our states. So this is who we are. This is who we are. This month, when, as was referenced, when the disaster relief package went forth, it's just a down payment, a very early start to providing the assistance that Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands urgently need. Much more needs to be done to assist these communities and throughout the long road. And that long road has to begin, that step has to be with a new energy grid in Puerto Rico. I think that Puerto Rico will have the opportunity to leapfrog over some of the, shall we say, challenges that are there in terms of the grid, and take the island into a beautiful future. Our fellow Americans deserve to know that our government, it will be there for them without question or hesitation, whether it's establishing that grid or addressing the health care, the Medicaid challenge that we have. We thought there was no question that we would have the full, a substantial, a bigger amount, shall we say, in the S-chip bill than we have. In fact, the S-chip bill is problematic in other ways, too. It's deeply disturbing that the Trump administration continues to pat itself on the back. Yes, we're very proud of many of the FEMA workers who were there. They deserve credit and they deserve respect. But just because something has been done doesn't mean that much more doesn't need to be done. 75% of Puerto Ricans, as has been mentioned, lack power. 35% do not have cell service. 1 million lack clean running water. 1/4 of sewage treatment plants are still not functioning. So let's not pat ourselves on the back too much, because we might break our arm in doing it, and unnecessarily, because much more needs to be done. So we're calling on President Trump and the administration to treat this as a national emergency with the urgency that Puerto Rico deserves, that this next bill will be very, very substantial, and particularly in the manner in which the Congresswoman mentioned, and, you know, not at the mercy of cronyism and incompetence, as I believe the Whitefish contract was. With that, I'm very, very pleased and honored. Oh, you're going to go back to you. You're going to be doing. I'm going to be very pleased to yield back.
Thank you. I just want to introduce Bonnie Castillo and to tell her how indebted the people of Puerto Rico are, and we all are as American citizens, to you and your organization for doing what you have done and to continue to raise the issue that people of Puerto Rico are suffering. It will be morally wrong for us, for Americans, if the cost of lives in Puerto Rico is much higher after the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. And there are right now 73 patients that are suffering in Puerto Rico of leptospirosis. That is due to contaminated water, and it is connected to the power grid. So, Bonnie.
Good afternoon. My name is Bonnie Castillo, and I'm a registered nurse, and I serve as the Associate Executive Director of National Nurses United, the largest union of registered nurses in the U.S., and I'm the director of our disaster response program, which is the Registered Nurse Response Network. RN has been sending nurses into disaster zones for more than a decade, going back to the South Asian tsunami in 2004, Hurricanes Katrina and Rita in 2005, Haiti in 2010, and many others since. RN and NNU deployed 50 registered nurses from 8 states on a 2-week disaster relief mission to Puerto Rico, led by the AFL-CIO in coordination with the Puerto Rican Federation of Labor and the San Juan Mayor's Office. Today, I'm very proud to be standing here with some of our nurses that answered this call, not only because they left their own homes and families to help others in need, but because they are still here even today advocating for the health and safety of the Puerto Rican people. Our nurses went to Puerto Rico to provide basic nursing care, but in community after community, they were shocked to find that the Puerto Ricans were facing a deadly lack of food, water, and shelter several weeks after Maria struck the island. We were left asking, where is our government? In this map, you can see where the nurses volunteered in communities throughout the entire island, delivering food, water, nursing care to as many communities as they could possibly reach. Many of these nurses have deployed in previous disasters, including devastating hurricanes, so they know what to expect during an emergency disaster relief. But yet what they saw in Puerto Rico was absolutely shocking. And I have to say, the federal government response to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico has been woefully inadequate. Many communities our nurses encountered had never seen anyone from FEMA, and those Puerto Ricans that had contact with FEMA, many did not receive a sustaining level of food and water. So we cannot be silent while millions of people continue to endure these conditions. And I want to thank the representatives here, Representative Velasquez, Leader Pelosi, Representative Serrano, and Gutierrez, for standing up for the people of Puerto Rico. Today, National Nurses United is releasing a report that lays out a series of actions and recommendations that the federal government must take immediately to confront this humanitarian disaster. It is a disaster. we urge Congress to obviously to use its oversight, its appropriations authority to ensure that FEMA and other U.S. agencies can respond to the crisis effectively. And I want to note that we reached out to FEMA, to the FEMA administrator, to meet with them from our delegation, these life-saving nurses, and we made multiple calls and did not receive a call back. Given that there is a growing climate crisis, it's essential that federal government is prepared to respond expeditiously to these increasingly dire natural and man-made disasters. It's unacceptable for the richest country on earth to be delaying necessary humanitarian aid to its own citizens and to leave people to die. As registered nurses, we advocate for our patients, and we will continue to demand justice for the people of Puerto Rico until they receive the relief that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you so much. Congressman Jose Serrano.
Thank you, Nydia, for bringing us together. Thank you, Leader Pelosi, for always being with us. And thanks to our colleagues who've never given up on this issue. There's so much that we could say about what's happened. Most of you know. I want to echo, though, the words of Nydia Velázquez in thanking the media. Prior to your taking this issue over, there were many Americans, if not the majority, who did not know where Puerto Rico was. And if they knew where Puerto Rico on the map was, did not know the relationship with the United States. They're our fellow Americans. They've served in our wars. In spite of what you hear, they do pay taxes in one way or another, and they should be treated equally. The fact that they don't live in a state should not be a reason not to be treated equally. What we have today here is a group of people.
All right, we're back in the newsroom, guys. We're going to switch it up with Tom Fitzgerald because I wanted to catch him before he goes out today because we're here to talk about the final JFK assassination files.
You caught me.
What?
You said you're going to catch me. So.
Got him. He's so fun-loving. I love it, Fitz.
Yes,
that's
everybody
great.
says that.
So you guys are on this stream for that reason. We put the headline up there. I know a lot of you are asking about it. Hey, Mike. And so let's break it down. We're talking about the final files having to do with the assassination from way back in 1963 are to be released today, and they have not been released yet.
Yeah, this is going to be fascinating. Now, the wheels were set in motion of this, not when President Trump tweeted the other day, but 25 years ago. In 1992, Congress passed a law deciding that 25 years hence, roughly about 11% of the files were still in the National Archives and not have been released. So today, those are being released. National Archives, I believe, if they follow past procedure, scholars will be able to physically apply to and visit the National Archives to actually see these documents in person. There will be an electronic online resource for the general public as well, non-scholars, because literally, I don't think it's feasible to have thousands of people going through the files of the National Archives. So I believe there's a project underway to Digitours, where there have already been a project to digitize all of these records, and then as a result, give the public access to it. Scholars will also have access to this as well. And the big question is, what is going to be in here? Is there going to be something in here that radically changes our viewpoint of the assassination of the 35th President of the United States, or is this going to confirm what we already know? So I'll throw my cards on the table here. I'm a bit of a JFK assassination buff.
Oh, you are? Okay, perfect.
I've been to Dallas. I've been to the site of the assassination. I've stood on the grassy knoll. I've been to the 6th floor window of the depository, and I stood at that window and looked out. If you've ever been to Dallas, I highly recommend it. It's a fascinating location to go to, and I'll tell you, up until that point, I had read pretty extensively about the Kennedy assassination prior to visiting Dallas. I'd read about it for years. I read the Warren Report. I never really kind of had serious questions about what we had already been told about it until I went to Dallas, until I stood in that window. And the speed limit on that road that exits Dallas, it's kind of on the edge of the city of Dallas, is still 35 miles an hour. So you will still see vehicles that are traveling at the rate that the president's motorcade was traveling that day.
It's interesting.
You know, since then, I don't know that, you know, Lee Harvey Oswald had help or not. You know, I don't know anybody who can conclusively can say that. However, ever since I did go to Texas and ever since I did go to the book depository, I've always wondered if there's more to the story than we know. And clearly there is more to the story, because 11% of this documentation has never been released before today. So I for one am fascinated to find out what is in there, and whether what is in there is going to confirm what we've been told all along, or if in fact there is some additional information that's going to radically change what we know.
What are some of the scholars and experts that have been talking about this? I know this morning saying that it might reveal some of the topics.
Step away from the Attorney General.
Just getting a note in.
Down to Otay Mesa, California.
It's all over the ballpark. You know, you have some people who say that this is going to reveal CIA concerns or FBI concerns that were not acted upon prior to what happened in Dallas. Now, we know from the Warren Commission report, and you know that is going back 50 years now almost, that there was serious concern and monitoring of communist activity in New Orleans and Dallas in relation to Lee Harvey Oswald. Some of these documents may or may not get into how much or how little the CIA and the FBI knew about this activity prior to the assassination. We don't know. It's all speculation until we see this. But what I'm hoping is this: conspiracies bubble up and continue in the face of the absence of information. It is very hard to argue with somebody who has belief in a conspiracy theory. It's almost impossible, because you are arguing an infinite amount of unknown possibilities. It's believe me, I've been in these conversations with people before.
I know, right?
It's impossible to deconvince someone of a conspiracy theory they believe in. What the hope here is that by releasing these documents, maybe it will close some parentheses on some things that have been left as open questions, like what did the CIA know about this leading up to and after the fact? What did the FBI know before and after the fact? Did Kennedy himself express any concerns prior to going to Dallas? You know, we do know that you know, there were full-page ads taken out in the Dallas papers, you know, telling JFK not to go to Dallas. So, you know, this is all historical record.
Yeah.
And I know for a lot of people, the Warren report itself is chock full of holes, and that is why in 1978, and this is really where my interest in it started. You know, I was born after the assassination, but you know, obviously grew up with it in my house. You know, because it was such an impactful moment for my parents and my brothers and sisters.
Same for mine.
Who were alive when it happened. My father was stationed in Hawaii at the time of the United States Air Force. And it was in 1978 that, because of all the questions related to the assassination, the House of Representatives created the House Committee on Assassinations. And this is when I was in grammar school, and I followed these very, very closely, because I had read the Warren report as a child, you know, as a kid, really.
It's amazing.
Because it was in our house. We had a paperback copy of it in our house. I followed it in 1978. Back in 1978, what they did is they literally recreated the assassination. They brought back a limousine. They put sharpshooters up into the windows, the same window I stood in. They recreated the trajectory, or tried to recreate the trajectory of the bullets. But, you know, there are all these unanswered questions about this. How did, you know, the magic bullet that they refer to, the bullet that supposedly traveled through the president, went through his wrist, did a tumble and a turn, and then shot Governor Connolly? How was that possible? And they've never really quite had conclusive proof to the point that made these conspiracy theories about it go away.
Bookings are now available.
What I will say is you know, you can read the Warren Commission report. You can read the 1978 report from the House Committee on Assassinations, which also looked in to the Robert F. Kennedy and the King assassination as well. But what I would really suggest is I believe the most definitive book I've ever read on the Kennedy assassination was Case Closed by Gerald Posner.
Okay.
Gerald Posner, and this book is probably 20 years old now. Wow. But Posner's still out there. You probably see him out on the news today. He's talking a lot right now. Posner's thesis of the book was that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. And this is not an idle statement. He goes through in depth. It is an exhaustive book. It's probably one of the best books ever written on the Kennedy assassination. So Gerald Posner has always been of the mind that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in the assassination. However, questions do remain about what support network surrounded Lee Harvey Oswald and what the United States government did or did not know about what was going on in the events leading up to it.
Really interesting.
So, you know, we might, I think we will learn some new things.
Which is so cool. It's so fascinating for anybody that loves this topic, of course, like we do. It's my understanding that there are a lot of words, even though it's only 11%, there's a ton of stuff to go through, right? It's pages and pages.
Well, it's thousands of pages.
Thousands.
So, you know, what it's going to take is, it's not going to take, you know, one brief scan over it. First of all, you need somebody who's a Kennedy assassination and historic scholar to know what parts of the story are missing, and then to go back through it and realize what holes these fill in the narrative. So, you know, I know in this day and age we want everything on Twitter and Facebook and everything comes out instantly. This is historic research, and it's often kind of boring stuff, and it's going to take a lot of long hours and a lot of boring nights of going through thousands and thousands of pages of these documents to fill in. But, you know, I kind of equate this to, I'm also very, you know, I've always been very fascinated by the Watergate story. Every now and then we will get new releases of tapes from Richard Nixon. We will get new, you know, and it's always interesting. And sometimes you can go through those very quickly. There's wow moments where you look at that stuff and you go like, okay, I didn't know that. And that is the hope with this. And, you know, it's been since 1963. It's time. It's time that we finally have an exhaustive release of all of this. So we get rid of the questions and we're able to finally kind of maybe put some of these arguments.
Quickly before you go, Fitz, this, I was flashing this earlier, is a picture, some video from earlier of outside this annex of the National Archives, which is in College Park, Maryland. That's where you're going.
Been there. This is a facility located in on Route 1, out near Route 1 in College Park, Maryland, which is kind of on the outside of the Beltway in D.C. Basically, they don't physically have enough space in the building that you probably know from coming to Washington and visiting at the National Mall. That's where the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence are. So they need this enormous, I mean, it is enormous warehouse out in College Park. And that is the main repository of a lot of these original documents. And this is where all of these Kennedy records are actually living now and have been for, you know, since this building opened. I've been out there to look at you know, documents from the Kennedy from the Nixon administration. We've been out there for other kinds of historical revelations about things coming out of their collection. So it's a fascinating place. The way I describe it is, if you've ever seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, the original one,
is a good
the best one. There is a scene at the very, very end where Harrison Ford is sitting with the administrators of the university that he's brought the Ark back to, and he's there with government administrators, and he's trying to find out what they did with the Ark. And the government people tell them that we have top people working on it. And then the last scene of the film, which is brilliant, is a man in a warehouse pushing the Ark of the Covenant into a stack. It's kind of like that.
Good. Oh man, you have a great story today.
It's just a fascinating place, and it's literally, you know, the brain, the collective memory of the United States of America is in that building.
That's so neat.
So
cool that you're going there today.
We will know more. today and tomorrow and the next day after that than we have since 1963 because of this release today.
So because there's so much to go through and it will take days for scholars to kind of parse through it, what is sort of your job today? You're going to be gleaning over what are you going to focus on when you go down there?
We're going to talk to one of the top historians when it comes to the JFK assassination. We're also going to be talking to some folks who are not historians about what this means to them. You know,
that's neat.
I'm 51. I've always been fascinated by this. I don't know how large of an interest there is in this amongst people who are of younger generations. You know, JFK was before I was born, so it's out of my memory bank. It's certainly out of a memory bank of anyone, you know, who's a millennial. So the one thing I do find is that when I talk to a lot of college students who study Kennedy, there is an immediate connection there with them because of his youth and because of what he represented to that. So almost in the same way, you know, college students kind of gravitated towards Barack Obama when he was running for president, simply because of his age, because he was so young.
That's a really good point.
We forget, you know, John F. Kennedy was, you know, barely 40 years old as president of the United States. You know, and here we have the president of the United States now is 70 years old. Ronald Reagan was in his 70s. You know, most of our presidents have been older men. And in that way, you know, there was a lot of anomalies about Kennedy. He was Catholic. We'd never had a Catholic president before. He was young. You know, I remember my parents talking about it. It was one of the most outside of Pearl Harbor, because they were of that generation. My father was in World War II. You know, what they would tell me constantly was that Pearl Harbor would always be the #1 thing that was the most shocking thing in their lives. But the Kennedy assassination was right there with it, because, you know, World War II was followed soon after Pearl Harbor, but the Kennedy assassination really changed the course of history for the United States. Yeah, we're a couple of weeks ago, weren't we talking about Ken Burns?
Yeah, Vietnam. So we've been talking about stuff that I think spans sort of the ages.
You know, that comes into play here. You know, there's always been this debate about, had Kennedy lived, had Kennedy served out his first term, been reelected to a second term, think about it, he would have left office in 1968, where we now know it was the height of the Vietnam War, the height of the unrest. 1968 was an explosive year in this country's history. I also refer back to it when I talk about the troubles we're having right now, which, you know, as much strife and as upset we have in the country right now, it does not come close to what this country went through in 1968. But had Kennedy lived, would we have pursued the policy that we did in Vietnam? Would we have gone to the moon? You know, think about all the things that resulted after he died. The moon program went into overdrive after John F. Kennedy was killed because it was viewed as his legacy. Well, if he wound up living and then there was no legacy from that, would we have pursued that as hotly as it? So it's not just the assassination. There's so many things that you think about American history, you know, that are tied into this. That I, as somebody who's interested in history and presidential history in particular, I find this to be a fascinating moment, a fascinating day.
And what about you guys? Let us know what you think in the live chat too. If you think, I personally think the JFK story, the assassination, it sort of spans the ages of millennials, of Gen X, of older people, depending where you are, because people still have questions. There are still conspiracies, of course, probably always will be. But it will be really interesting to see what we can glean from today's revelation. Like we said, we didn't know if it was going to be revealed this morning. It turns out it's going to be possibly later today afternoon.
We've been checking the site to see if there's anything available to see right now. And I actually have been in contact with the National Archives this morning.
Oh, good.
And the response I got back was that we are flooded.
I'm sure. It's so interesting. We'll make sure we keep
I don't know if we're going to be
posted.
I don't know if they're going to get unflooded anytime soon.
Yeah. So Fitz will be on our evening broadcast talking about it. We'll have our web story updated on of course our website fox5dc.com and our Facebook page as things come out, because I know you guys are jumping on. Graham, you said you're interested in it. Thanks for watching, and Yeah, a lot of thoughts coming in. So it'll be cool to see what we can take out of it for the next couple of days. It will take a bit. I think somebody put up a statistic on how long it would take to actually read them all, read everything, because there's so much coming out. But
it's got to take forever.
It's like years or something. Yeah,
I mean,
X amount of years.
Again, you go back to the Watergate story. We are still learning and reading things about Watergate, and that was 1974. The questions that surround the JFK assassination are tenfold over Watergate. That's the assassination of a president, and there's always been this cloud of conspiracy that circled around it. Unlike any of the other assassinations this country has suffered, you think about there was always these questions about John Wilkes Booth, and had he had help, and then they found out very quickly they had arrested a number of co-conspirators. Some of them were put to death right down in Southwest D.C. where Fort McNair is right now. Some of those buildings are still there. So that assassination is still very tied into this city's history as well too. I've talked to some people who were here for John F. Kennedy's funeral, and they say that was the moment where really Washington became more than just a political capital city, that it really became this beacon to the world. People around the planet, saw that shot of the horse-drawn carriage and Blackjack Pershing the horse, coming across the Memorial Bridge with that long shot to the Lincoln Memorial. It was a moment, where the entire planet looked at the city in a way, symbolically, that it had never really done before. And that was in large part because Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, even dealing with the murder of her husband and having to care for two small children, and really, in a way, having been a victim herself in that shooting. Remember, she was sitting right next to him in the limousine when the shots rang out. She and Bobby Kennedy crafted that funeral, and this city had never seen anything like that before. We'd had presidential funerals before, FDR. We'd had Abraham Lincoln was put on a train and taken to many cities across the country. Washington had never seen anything like that before, and she had decided that he was going to be buried here. The story is that about 2 weeks before the assassination, John F. Kennedy was at Arlington National Cemetery, and he was visiting the home of Robert E. Lee, the Lee Custis Mansion, which is still there. You can still go there and visit it. And there's a hill when you go to the mansion that kind of looks out over this expanse of Washington, and you can see Washington almost kind of laying out in front of you. You see the Lincoln Memorial, you see the Washington Monument, you see the Capitol in the background. And Kennedy was heard to say that day, "I could spend the rest of my life here." And
that's where that comes from, why she buried him.
A couple of weeks later, they had decided that there was a plot of land at the base of that hill, which is where John F. Kennedy's gravesite is today. And that is where he was buried. And one of the reasons he's buried there is because a couple of weeks before he had said words to the effect that he could spend the rest of his life there. And
So
in a way, he now does. The rest of the Kennedys are buried there as well. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis was buried there in the early 90s after she passed away. They have an infant son, and I believe another child that was buried there as well too. Their older children, obviously, we know, John F. Kennedy Jr. tragically died in a plane crash, in the 1990s, and he was a publisher of a magazine. The sole surviving member of the Kennedy family right now, the immediate Kennedy family, is Caroline Kennedy.
Yeah.
And she's, lived a remarkable life. She's gone on to, be a legal scholar and author on the Constitution. She most recently served as the United States ambassador to Japan in the Obama administration. And now there's a new generation of Kennedys. Congressman Joe Kennedy III.
The young guy.
He is kind of the leading edge on this new generation of Kennedys, and they do seem to be kind of coming full circle, because for a while there, I would say the child group of the Kennedys kind of did steer away from politics for a while. Kathleen Kennedy Townsend had served as the lieutenant governor of the state of Maryland, but for the most part, and Joe Kennedy had served as a congressman from Massachusetts. But we are starting to see now another generation of Kennedy children now getting back into politics in a big way. Ted Kennedy's sons have both served, and it might be another wave now of Kennedys taking office and running for office, across the country. Senator Edward Markey right now is serving in the Senate for Massachusetts. Who knows how long he'll stay there? Who knows how long Elizabeth
New England
Warren might? And we may see another Kennedy, run for Senate again at some point. But there's no denying the impact that family has had on politics in this country, and this is why people are so interested in this assassination, because all the things we've just been talking about, the tentacles from those years, and it was only 3 short years that he was in office, spread out through our history today. There are things we are dealing with today that you could draw a straight line right back to the Kennedy administration and the Kennedy family. So it's fascinating, important stuff.
It is. And quickly,
that's why people care about it.
Yeah, and you guys who are on with us obviously do care, as you see that we're talking about this topic today. If you're just joining us, the final files related to the JFK assassination are coming out to be released today. And remind us really quick, and our viewers, what sort of withheld these files before and what gave the go-ahead?
Well, we don't know specifically because we don't know what's in them.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that there were government agencies like the CIA, possibly the Justice Department and the FBI, that had reason to keep these files private. And I'm entering into guesswork here. There may be names of sources in these things. There may be pieces of information that had this gotten out in 1992 may have endangered sources of information. Now remember, look at the world right now as opposed to where it was 25 years ago. It's a much different world now than it was 25 years ago.
That's all everything.
So our relationships have changed. Our relationship with Russia has changed. So we'll have to find out what was in there to determine whether or not there was a valid reason why these things were kept secret to begin with. But, the reason they put a 25-year limit on it was, for a couple of reasons. Also to push it away from the lifespans of the immediate family members. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis sadly is gone now. Ted Kennedy is gone now. Some of the president has lost some other siblings as well too. So they are now not around to decipher this. I will say, getting back to Congressman Kennedy, he was asked about this the other day, and he had said that he didn't have a problem with it being released. What he did seem to have a problem with, though, was, in his words, he wasn't aware that the family had been contacted in any capacity to alert them to the fact that the administration was going to allow this to go ahead. Now remember, the Trump administration didn't make this call. This was made back 25 years ago. However, the president could have stepped in if he determined that there was some reason in the national interest to not allow this to go forward, and blocked or prevented some of this coming out, and they've decided to let it come out.
He was the only one that could have done that. To stop it.
By law.
Yeah.
By law. So, for a lot of people who are going around saying that Donald Trump is releasing these records and why is he doing this? Well, he's not doing this. This was decided a quarter century ago. And when the Kennedy family itself says that they would prefer more to be public than already is, then you would tend to defer to them. And I think it's a good thing for the country. The more we know about things like this, the better off we are if it's in the national interest.
Really interesting stuff. Well, you're going to get out there and kind of see what happens, right?
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot
checking
else
your
going
site.
On. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks,
All right,
Fitz.
well, thanks.
Great analysis from Tom Fitzgerald as always.
Slide out. You all have
Slide
a good
out.
day out there in YouTube land.
Thanks so much. Okay, that's Tom Fitzgerald. Guys, if you're just joining us too, welcome to our channel. So you know what we are. We're the digital live stream that's going on during the middle of the day here at Fox 5 DC. So I'm going to take this off and actually go back to the nurses. This is actually pretty interesting. I know some of you are watching it. The nurses that have returned from Puerto Rico, we're going to mix it up here and do a lot of different topics. And they are speaking and talking about, or actually calling on more federal assistance for Puerto Rico after, of course, the tragedy and devastation there. We have a couple different sources coming in. I'm just looking at our video, so we'll be switching it up, but let's go back over there. And thanks again for joining us for that analysis on the JFK files. Again, guys, if you want an update on that, we'll be posting more, of course, as this story comes out, as Tom Fitzgerald finds out more today and puts together his own piece for the evening shows. We'll have more on our website as well and on our Facebook page. So join us there. All right, we're going to go back over to this event on Capitol Hill.
Conocía, y la idea que a mí me vino seguida, o lo que más me impactó, es que supuestamente la compañía tiene 2 empleados. Yo nunca he oído en mi vida una compañía de 2 empleados tener un contrato de 300 millones, con la excepción de un pelotero que juegue béisbol. Pero todos los otros tienen que ser unas compañías que puedan crecer y que puedan dar el servicio. Puerto Rico no necesita ahora que se le esté haciendo favores a nadie en los contratos, sino que se ayude al pueblo.
Correcto.
Again, I understand your position, but Mr. Trump speaks on a number of issues every day, and he hasn't acknowledged, hey, guess what? They finished the prototype. My mandate is moving forward. He hasn't said a word about it.
So the work that the Border Patrol has done, what CBP and DHS are responsible for, is to get this project underway. That's what we've done. As it relates to Congress, we've given them as much information as we have now as it relates to estimates and locations and priorities. What happens after that is not a discussion that I can initiate. That's something that the appropriations and the authorizers do. Yeah, it's difficult. I think the thing that I'm most impressed by is the scale. And then I worked with our head project person here from OFAM on sort of the engineering things, and so I've learned a lot about how these companies actually made these things happen. And so I think the biggest impression I have is how big they are. It's a matter of what the testing and evaluation says, though. So we've seen some unique features here. We haven't used in the Border Patrol significant concrete outside of South Texas. We haven't used concrete to build wall. So this is a change from what's in the toolkit now. And so we'll just see which of these features do the best in the evaluation. And then we'll look at the other challenges, including what the operators need the most. And then we'll get a new design based on what we've learned here. Yeah, so even in this sector, you realize that the terrain is very different in different locations. So we're here on the Mesa. It's fairly regular between here and as you move toward the urban area, you have different requirements. It's very like that in the border, even in cities that are along the line. There's different requirements in different locations. So all of this information will help us develop what's best for which location. Well, it took us 30 days to get what we see here. So that's, these are ideal conditions, I would say. It just depends on where we go first and what exactly the project is and what materials we're going to end up using. we're aware of it and we're planning accordingly. We're going to see what happens on the evaluation, and then we'll make a plan to use them to their best ability. We're not sure whether they stay here, whether they are part of the infrastructure system, but that'll be determined through the testing and evaluation phase.
The Inspector General has said that there is no process in place that directly correlates walls with apprehensions or lower apprehensions. How do you know that these walls will work?
We've had several conversations in that regard. I know from my experience that when these barriers are effectively resourced with the technology and with the agent response, their mission readiness, that it works. And I'm happy to have a discussion about that with anybody.
Back in the back.
How much has your agency requested from Congress for 2018 to begin construction?
Don't have that in front of me, but I think the president's request for 18 is about 1.6 billion. That's for CBP. A lot of that is wall money. But it's other things as well. And if you don't leave with any other message from us here, recognize that it isn't just concrete and steel, what's reflected here. We need to have the sensors, the cameras, the patrol roads, and obviously the agents that make the difference. That's how you secure the border. You have to have the right mix of those technologies. Our request was created at the headquarters and then forwarded through the process to eventually become part of the president's ask. For CBP, right? And again, that's not just wall, that's not just these barriers, it's a lot of other things as well. Let's do here first. So CBP has experience in these projects previously, and we learned a lot about our requirements for environmental protection, and we'll be good stewards of the land for these projects and the ones that go forward.
We see the federales right over the old border wall right here. Have you guys had cooperation with them? What's been their input?
We're grateful for their help in making sure that this project went off in a safe and a safe manner operationally. And you probably know this, but on the ground here, we have to have a relationship throughout law enforcement, including on the international side. So they're good partners with us. They have been over time.
We're going to do two more.
I thanked him for helping us make this happen, keeping it safe while it was going on, and I thanked him for protecting all of you while we're here today.
Go ahead. Following all the process and everything goes through, do you have a date that when soon can we have construction, maybe one part, not all the wall, but the construction of the wall?
There are a lot of things that have to happen, the testing and the evaluation, the estimates. We need an appropriation. So all of those things are not timelines that can be scripted. Based on the mandate that we have, we're going to do it as quickly as we can, as safely as we can, to give as much security to the homeland as we can. It just depends on how the evaluations go forward. It depends on where we start and how quickly the funding comes to us. So the folks that the 6 companies that are reflected here won this bid for prototypes. So they are winners in the process so far. What we'll do now is learn from what they've given us and the innovations that they've made to develop a new standard. And we'll engineer that, and then we'll put that back out. And then there'll be other vendors that can compete for that process.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. at the headquarters. They've kept this project on track and on time, and we're happy to see what the results are now so that we can move forward. Border security relies on a combination of border infrastructure, technology, and personnel. We also have to have partnerships with federal, state, and locals. Border walls have proven to be an extremely effective part of our multi-pronged security strategy to prevent the illegal migration of people and drugs over many years. Specifically, walls are part of a border enforcement zone, which includes roads, lights, and surveillance technology. In an area where it's needed, a border enforcement zone gives the U.S. Border Patrol agents the best possible conditions to maintain a safe and secure border, not only for the border itself or for the integrity of the border, but for their own personal officer safety. On the 25th of January, the President issued an executive order instructing the Department of Homeland Security to plan, design, and construct a physical wall along the southern border. The order also instructed DHS to use appropriate materials and technology to most effectively achieve operational control of the southern border. We issued 2 requests for proposals, one soliciting concepts for reinforced concrete designs and other for non-concrete alternatives. The construction of these prototypes began here in Otay Mesa on the 26th of September. We chose this area because San Diego is one of the busiest sectors in the nation. As an example, in 2016, the Border Patrol apprehended 31,000 illegal aliens and seized nearly 9,200 pounds of marijuana and more than 1,300 pounds of cocaine. Over the years, border infrastructure, technology, and other operational initiatives have improved border security in the San Diego sector. However, more work needs to be done. Prototyping is an industry-tested approach to define the best solution when considering new product or methodology. Through the construction of prototypes, CBP is partnering with industry to identify additional means and methods to construct border wall. The prototypes will inform border wall design standards, which will likely continue to evolve to meet the U.S. Border Patrol's requirements. All of the prototypes include features that discourage digging, climbing, and withstanding of breaches, and all are between 18 and 30 feet high. Constructing prototypes here allows U.S. Border Patrol agents to interact with different designs in an active border enforcement zone. This will help CBP compare and contrast the characteristics and durability of these prototypes with those of current wall and supporting infrastructure. Now let's talk about what's next. The prototypes have been built. CBP is using an integrated testing and evaluation approach for assessing the prototypes' unique approaches to impeding and denying illegal entry. We will also be testing and evaluating the prototypes' ability to withstand breaching methods and equipment. Can it be climbed? Can it be dug under? Can it withstand cutting tools? Development and the technical testing, evaluation, planning, and execution will be conducted by our Office of Acquisition, Systems Engineering Division, Systems Analysis and Evaluation Branch, while operation and mission testing will be conducted by the Operations Support Capabilities and Requirements Division, Land Systems Ops Test Authority, and together they will plan and execute testing and evaluation for the vendor-provided mock-up and prototype designs. It usually takes about 30 days for that process to play out. After that, that's how long it will take before these walls are ready to test on and the mock-ups are ready to test on, and then about 30 to 60 days for the test and evaluation after that. But the testing and evaluation will inform future physical wall design, material, and equipment, which will then be detailed for future requests for proposal for future wall construction. I want to summarize that the role that Border Patrol has played in this process. The U.S. Border Patrol is the expert in determining how to best secure the border. All the parts of the border remain vulnerable to illegal crossings. Therefore, the Border Patrol's operational assessment of the border has informed and will continue to inform plans to build infrastructure and deploy additional resources. The Border Patrol relies on 4 interdependent master capabilities to secure the border. Domain awareness. This is achieved through technology that helps detect, identify, and classify threats. Impedance and denial. This is provided through border walls designed to deny and deter illicit activity across the border. Access and mobility. This is accomplished through added infrastructure, which includes accessing patrol roads and enhance our responsibility and capabilities. And then mission readiness, provided by agents through their training and tools that govern the law enforcement response. Border walls are critically important to each and every one of these master capabilities. I'm very proud of what the team has accomplished here. I hope we've clearly outlined the reasons for the approach we've taken. These prototypes are vitally important for the future of border security here in San Diego as well as the southwest border. I want to thank the federal, state, and local partners as well as our international partners, Sector Chief Villarreal, and I'm now happy to take your questions.
We're going to start with Ron Nixon of the New York Times. Ron.
So there's a minimum requirement at each of the bases below ground that it will help deter and detect tunneling. And then we'll use that situational awareness piece, that domain awareness piece.
Hey guys, if you're joining us, I'm Molly in the Fox 5 DC Digital Newsroom. We're actually going to jump over now to this source in Tampa. Officials are talking about the possible serial killer situation there. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but they're giving some updates now. So I'm going to take that full screen and then we'll return back to play out this border wall press conference from earlier in its entirety so we can get that in case you missed it. But again, thanks for coming onto the stream with us, guys. Let's check into this live source right now. Updates in Tampa.
So now I will show the video in a minute, and you'll see that the person appears to be walking in one direction and then another. He is walking in the same direction. However, there are multiple cameras from multiple angles, from one side of the street and the other side of the street. You're going to see that this will look familiar and that it's been enhanced, but it's still fairly grainy video. We see a person walking on the street very close to the homicide around that time when Benjamin Mitchell was murdered. And then you're going to see his hand, his right hand. We're going to show you this a couple times. He appears to flip his phone, and it's significant, we think, but it could be a habit. Maybe many people do it. So just watch this and work through me with this. And we want everyone at home to start looking at this video and tell us what to do, what they think of it. You see, he takes the phone, I think it's a he, but it could be anybody, out of the right front pocket. Watch his right hand. The flip of the phone. Now it looks as he's looking at his phone, or her. Now you're seeing the same individual, only in color. This is all before the shooting. Are they wearing a rain jacket? Are they wearing a video? And you can see where some of the video is not clear. But in my opinion, if you knew who this person was, if that were me in that video, I have to believe that my neighbors would be able to identify me. Okay? Now this is important. The next video clip that you see is going to be very important. And you're going to see why we think this is a person of interest. I am completely comfortable in calling this a person of interest. Now we have video of this same person that we believe is now running from the area. And this person is running just seconds after the murder. This video is now posted on our Twitter account. It'll be on our YouTube channel. We will send this updated on the media alert. You know, and let me be clear, we're not saying that this person is the suspect. But why, after this long, we've had this video out there for so long, why have they not come forward? So they're either not aware of it. Yeah, I want people to take a close look of the one color video, even though it's very short and the video's been enhanced. Look at the style of clothing, the type of hoodie. Is it a hoodie? The traditional thick thermal sweatshirt hoodie? Is it a rain jacket? Is it a long, thin t-shirt style hoodie? Someone has to know who wears clothing like that. Take a look at the pants. What color are they? You know, these are questions I can't answer, but someone who knows this individual walking in this video, and then later running from the area, could possibly be able to give us the answers and tell us who that person is. We believe that this person has ties to this neighborhood, and we want to speak to them. Now, as you know, we have tried to be as upfront and forthcoming as possible. We have released the original video on October 12th. We were only aware of one homicide at the time. The video we released at that time was the best quality in terms of the angle and the clarity of identifying the person. The video that we are releasing today, although I'm not sure it's of much better quality as far as being able to identify the race or the sex of the person, in my opinion, it gives us more than enough information that somebody should be able to identify this person. I don't want people jumping to conclusions when they're watching this video. I don't want to influence their opinion when they're watching this video. That's why I'm very careful in trying to identify what this person might be wearing and what they're doing. So let's look at, when you think about this person running, why are they running? Now, when we release this video, everybody's going to crawl out of the woodwork. You're going to hear from profilers and the professionals and the retired law enforcement, and they're going to create a lot of speculation that leads to absolutely nothing. Okay, they look at odds. This isn't Vegas. This is a homicide investigation. We need names, not speculation. We need people to tell us, this is who I think it is. Not a broad range of age and suspicion. In my opinion, and I'm not being sarcastic, I think everybody knows how serious and passionate I am about this investigation. There are probably, I've come up with 4 reasons why this person is running. 1, they may be late for dinner. 2, they're out exercising. 3, they heard gunshots. And number 4, they just murdered Benjamin Mitchell. Do you have any questions?
Chief, are you guys getting desperate for clues in the 2.5 weeks since Benjamin was?
Now, we're receiving phone calls, we're receiving information. We're hoping that this video, and you're aware of, those of you in the business know how the time-consuming job and task it is to edit video, review video in real time. It takes some time to collect video. This is various cameras at various angles, and this is how we put this together. I have been very hesitant to label anyone on this. I am now coming out and calling this a person of interest.
Was this video required through your Project Red program?
I don't know that specifically. We have so many wheels moving right now that I know that during our investigation we collected this video.
The neighbors give you this video through their cameras?
We got the video from the neighborhood. I cannot disclose where it came from.
Can you touch again on the timeline of it walking in that direction and then running in regards to the shooting? Can you go over that again?
Well, if you see it, it's interesting. This person looks like they're just going for a walk. You know, they don't look like they're going out to do anything other than go for a walk. But the cop of me says, why are you running seconds after the murder of Benjamin Mitchell? And that's the answer we want.
Is it running the opposite direction or the same direction?
Yes, it's running a different direction from where they were walking. So it appears that they are walking towards where Benjamin Mitchell was, and then they are running away from the scene.
Can you say what direction they are coming from?
No, I can't.
There was not a
particularly in the evening? I know that some people fashionably wear hoodies, but have you wondered why somebody has a hoodie up like that on the evening that it's not particularly cold?
No, I don't really speculate much on that. When you live in Florida and that's just the fashion that people do these days. That I think is kind of a myth from movies. I'm really not putting a lot of speculation as the length of the jacket. There was some rain earlier in the evening. Maybe it's a raincoat. I don't want to fuel too much speculation. I want people to come to their own conclusions and not listen to what Brian Dugan thinks, because they may think I have some inside information and I don't want to sway their opinion. I want someone to step up and go, this is who we think that person is.
Chief, that was without a block, that video. A block where Anthony Nibola was also murdered. So does anybody show up the night of Nibola's murder similarly looking to this person?
We are still sifting through all that.
So you have to get in and have been able to determine if there's another.
We don't know if what the video will show. We're still sifting through hours upon hours of video. We're very comfortable and confident, and this was the night of Benjamin Mitchell's murder, and that's why we want to speak to this person. And we have already, been very clear that we think they're all related.
Any idea how many videos you've gotten in so far? You said hours and hours of video. How many people have provided you with video?
I don't have the specific number, but when you look at video, when you download video from someone's home, it can take several hours just to download the video itself, and then to bring it back here and go through it and then enhance it. The video that we released is enhanced. It's actually taken at a very far distance, and through our technology, we're able to enhance it. Now, when we enhance video, you then start losing the resolution, which is why it's not so clear of the sex and the race and everything of this person.
Is there a timestamp on the video? Does the home video system have an actual minute, second?
I don't have that answer, but I can tell you it's within seconds of the murder.
And this is from a home and not a business?
Through several different places, locations. I shouldn't say several, from a few different locations.
So both home and business?
I don't know.
And it's safe to say running away from the scene?
Yes, they're walking to the scene and then they are running away from it.
Was there any audio recorded that you hear a gunshot on any of the video you have?
We don't have that.
Can you talk directly to our viewers? I mean, this man or woman is flipping their phone, dressed a certain way, about the familiarity of this person. They may not recognize him immediately, but can you tell our viewers what they should be paying attention to and when they should contact you?
Well, to me, what stands out is the clothing, the upper clothing. It is, it's unique. The color of the pants, it's difficult to tell. The reason I focus in on the flip, because I have tried to do that myself several times and have dropped my phone. Now, I'm not a millennial. I'm not part of the selfie generation. I don't know if that is common for that. But I can tell you I've asked other people to do it, and they've dropped their phones. That might be a habit of this person. At this point, everything is a clue. Everything's a speculation. The bottom line is this person may be completely innocent, but we want to talk to you.
Chief, how frustrating is it you had this video and you've already released it, and yet you're still at the same point that you were a couple of weeks ago?
Well, I think this video here is very encouraging. When you're able to look at that and place it, we've taken several different shots and spliced it together, which I don't know what the actual word, that's an old school term, but when you look at how we've been able to put this together using different types of technology, this is encouraging to me. Someone I would think knows who this person is. Like I said, they may not realize it. Okay, thank you.
Hey, thanks for you guys tuning in to that update from the officials in Tampa Bay. I totally agree with you, Rika. I kind of wish the questioners were mic'd. That happens to us a lot where we bring in a feed and unfortunately we don't even hear the question and then they're answering these press conference questions and we're sort of in the dark. But hopefully you guys got the gist of that. Pretty interesting to start with that surveillance video of the person in question, the suspect that they're kind of looking into there. I actually was not aware of that story, so pretty interesting surprise for me bringing that on. Thanks guys for those of you on our stream. Welcome to our Fox 5 live stream for today, Thursday, October 26th. And we're going to kind of keep it going with whatever we have live that's coming in. But I'm going to go back because right now, nothing super popping out at me in our sort of control room here at our digital news desk. So I'm going to go back to the video from earlier so we can play it in its entirety. There were officials right on the border near San Diego talking about the new border wall prototypes that have been designed. They've already started construction on these prototypes and they're sort of getting the ball running. And so a federal agent was there to kind of chat about that, sort of give a synopsis, a summary of what they've been doing, and then answer some questions as well. So we're going to play that out. Again, this is in Southern California. Just listening to the box right now. They're announcing a President Trump event that's going to be happening at 2 o'clock. So hopefully we'll be able to jump over to that if we're still here on the stream. So let's play out more of this press conference from the border wall prototype discussion from earlier this morning. Thanks guys for joining us on the stream.
And classify threats. Impedance and denial. This is provided through border walls designed to deny and deter illicit activity across the border. Access and mobility. This is accomplished through added infrastructure, which includes accessing patrol roads and enhance our responsibility and capabilities. And then mission readiness, provided by agents through their training and tools that govern the law enforcement response. Border walls are critically important to each and every one of these master capabilities. I'm very proud of what the team has accomplished here. I hope we've clearly outlined the reasons for the approach we've taken. These prototypes are vitally important for the future of border security here in San Diego as well as the southwest border. I want to thank the federal, state, and local partners as well as our international partners, Sector Chief Villarreal, and I'm now happy to take your questions.
We're going to start with Ron Nixon of the New York Times. Ron.
So there's a minimum requirement at each of the bases below ground that it will help deter and detect tunneling. And then we'll use that situational awareness piece, that domain awareness piece. All new wall that the Border Patrol is asking for will have a buried cable sensor in it, so that it will recognize. The technology will tell agents and the response teams that there's somebody approaching the wall, and then things like digging and tunneling will be detected by that equipment as well. So those are the features, both physical and technological.
Elliot Saget.
So what happens, what CBP has taken the responsibility for based on the executive order that the president sent to us, we're going to look at all of these features, look at what works, what doesn't work, and then we're going to test it for digging, we're going to test it for breachability, we're going to test it for climbing, and then we're going to look at all the other things we've asked the vendors to do, things like the aesthetics, things about what's on the top and how it deters climbing or grappling and those kind of things. All of that evaluation will then get put back to the evaluation teams at headquarters, both the engineering piece, the environmental, and then the Border Patrol operational concerns. So we'll put all of that mixed together and we'll determine a new design for specific areas. And so these features and what's reflected here will be a composite request for new wall, both for primary barrier, what we put right on the actual line, and then what we use for the enforcement zone, like you have here at the border infrastructure system, which will be set back from the border in some ways. So there'll be different versions that'll come out of what we've learned from these prototypes. The president has already weighed in. He's given this instruction to get this project underway, so we're happy to deliver that for him.
William Lejeunesse. John Gibbons. Okay. Oh, okay. Eric from Fox 5.
He actually was, he answered my question. I just wanted to know specifically the length that he was, but any boarded club would visit these prototypes in person?
I'm not in charge of the president's schedule. We're happy to report back to Washington, all the leadership there, what we've done here, and as the operation and the project continues, we'll make that information available.
Angie Lee.
So the request for proposals has specifics for what the bases are constructed of, and typically that goes down, concrete goes up about 6 feet. Some of them are bigger, some of them are set back further. It just depends on what the vendors gave us, and we'll evaluate the variances in each one to see what fits for us. But we know that when we put infrastructure at the immediate border, or even in a secondary barrier, we have to pay attention to tunneling. They do have that. We will test them for that. That's part of the evaluation. But that was the minimum requirement we asked these vendors for.
Greg Moran.
So a little confused on the process. So will one of the winning designs come from one of these walls, or you said a combination of the technology?
So it could be one of these, depending on how the evaluation sorts. But it would more likely be a composite of the features that are expressed here, because there are different requirements for different locations. So what you put at the immediate border versus what you put in an enforcement zone have different attributes and have different needs. And so we're going to look at everything that's reflected here and then put a new design standard for immediate border barrier and the secondary barrier.
That'll be a separate bidding process?
It will.
We have Jacqueline Hurtado. No. What about Juan Carlos? Go ahead.
Sure. I was given the amount of 21 billion. Does that sound accurate? And where's the money going to come from?
So what's reflected here has already been allocated to CBP and the department through FY17 funding. Everything that we do new from this point forward, there's some authorized projects for 2017. Everything we do in 2018 will require on appropriation.
Is that accurate, like 21 billion?
I'm not an expert in the estimation. It is expensive. We think this works. We think it's valuable to do. It's important. So we will give ourselves and the rest of the government and our authorizers and appropriators all the information that they need about the estimates that we're going to make. It will be expensive.
We got Michelle. Yeah, thanks. So will you continue using these active prototypes for the testing?
Yes, for the scalability and the anti-dig testing and evaluation. It takes 30 days for the concrete to set, so we can't manipulate these until then. Same with the mock-ups, the actual breachabilities. And then we'll spend between 30 and 60 days on the evaluations. Then once all that information and all the testing and the science is developed, then we give that, and we'll have some engineers look at it, we'll have our operators look at it, and then we'll make a plan for a subsequent request. So 30 days for, at least 30 days for the concrete to cure, about 60 days for the testing and evaluation, and then an additional 30 to 60 days to evaluate all that material and develop a new standard. Correct.
How long do you think before you would be able to, getting funding to actually see effective border wall, final border wall going up?
Going up is a matter of, like you said, of the appropriation. We'll have our work done between 3 and 4 months about what the standard looks like, and as it goes out for an additional bid process. Yeah, that's hard for me to imagine. We have outlined all the operational priorities where the Border Patrol has told us where they need it the most. We've got some replacement projects that are going to be underway in 17, and then the new wall will all start in 18. Right, because what we have.
All right. Hey, guys, thanks so much for joining us and hanging out with us today on the stream here at Fox 5 Live. I want to quickly show you a look inside the East Room of the White House. This is where President Trump is going to be giving a talk or making some remarks on the drug epidemic and opioid addiction, and he'll be speaking shortly. We're actually taking this to our air, so it will be on Fox 5's channel and then also on our Facebook page. So please do feel free to join us over there for that, because it'll take a second to kind of get going. So we want to make sure we are rolling on that. We're putting it up on our social media instead of having it here on our YouTube channel, because we're going to roll out the show for the day, guys. But thanks so much for joining us. And if you're kind of just coming on and seeing this headline, if you wait till the stream stops, and it'll stop very shortly, you can go back into the stream and check out our analysis about the last of the JFK assassination files that are scheduled to be released today from the National Archives Annex out in College Park, Maryland, where we sent Tom Fitzgerald, and he gave a really interesting analysis about the whole topic and what they're going to be looking for and what might come out in the coming days from researchers and experts on this topic who are going to be sifting through these documents and gleaning some information that that has gone unanswered for more than 25 years. And so that should be pretty interesting. So that story and more to come on our 5 o'clock broadcast, on our 6 o'clock broadcast, and of course on our website. Everything will be updated. So join us there. And don't forget to join us again here on our YouTube channel tomorrow at 11:30 as usual. And we'll see you again inside our newsroom. That is my information, my handle, if you want to get in contact. And again, once the stream ends in a few minutes, you can go back and check into some of the stuff that we covered today. So anyway, guys, have a great Thursday. We'll talk to you and see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.